Hello, hello. I think we are live from cold Saskatchewan, Canada. Welcome everyone to this chat with Chris from. I'm just going to go back into the Zoom right away here. From Chris from Spirit No. I just forgot. I just wrote it down.
Healing Spirits Kambo.
Healing. That's Healing Spirit Kambo. Here you go. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this chat. A little late for us, but I appreciate it's already night anyway at like 5 p.m. So at this point it doesn't matter, right? So
right.
Thanks for being here. How are you? How's your solstice going? Happy solstice.
Happy solstice. I'm cold.
Yeah, no.
It was a cold day. It was a really cold day, but I mean, it's a great day, right? Another day in this vessel I call my body is always a good day. So, such a blessing. Today with the solstice, for me, it was really about honoring, my shadow side. Right? I mean, without the shadow side, how do we really know who we are? And so I really was sitting with that. I found myself sitting with that a few moments today. And I had a nice little ceremony tonight, and yeah, it's been good.
Oh, what did you do for ceremony?
Well, I actually sat with another frog medicine, not Kambo. I sat with a medicine called Bufo.
Oh, you'll have to tell me more about this.
Yeah, it's the most powerful psychedelic in this world.
Wow.
Yeah, I just did like a microdose of it. Yeah, I wasn't, I didn't have anybody here sitting with me to be able to go into the full experience. Because it's definitely safety is the most important factor, when we're doing any medicine. So I did a very, very small amount. It definitely helps reconnect, ourselves and really embrace the purpose of life, which is love. And so, yeah, I sat with that. It was about 45 minutes and it was a great experience. It's been a long, long time since I sat with that medicine. So,
wow, I'm always really intrigued with what you do. And for those who don't know what Kambo is or frog medicine, why don't you explain us, if you don't mind, a little bit how you came across this medicine and how you what's your journey through this medicine? How did it come into your life?
well, my journey, that led me to this medicine was, drug addiction. At one point in time, I was an IV drug user. Crack cocaine, alcohol, meth, basically anything that I can get into me to numb myself. And so I was about 9 years ago. I got into using cannabis as a harm reduction tool, which widened the gaps between me using. I still used, but not, on the daily. And I wouldn't go missing for 5 days straight, So I got into cannabis. And it wasn't something that helped me heal, but it did get me onto that path. Now, cannabis, I got into in helping people. So I got into the cannabis industry back when it was illegal. And we had a dispensary, it was called Best Buds, which primarily helped people that used cannabis for medical purposes. And many of those people were using it for harm reduction, which is the same reason why I used it. From there, my friend who's also in the cannabis industry, and I guess partner, I was like a minority, owner in this business, and this guy was the the big cheese, I guess we'll call him. His name is Pat. He went to Vancouver and came back, and he said, I did this thing called Kambo. It was a ceremony, it was a frog medicine, and it makes you purge. And I became interested. So I found this lady online. Her name is Rama. She very influential in my life. She was a coach of mine and taught me a lot, but she was my first Campbell practitioner that I worked with the medicine for years. Um, and so I went to Vancouver to see her for the first time, and I did 3 ceremonies with her, and I felt like I leveled up a little bit. I became more self-aware. I peeled back some of the layers, the trauma that I was experiencing, lots of issues to do with, my dad, my parents, his family issues, right? Um, and from then I started going back, like every 3 4 months. Or she came to Vancouver, she came to Saskatoon, Regina. We did ceremonies there, but I started doing it on a regular basis, and each time I would just have another level of self-awareness. And Campbell would definitely bring some things to the surface. She would call it the great revealer. And it definitely is not all rainbows and unicorns. Campbell can bring some things to the surface where, it can cause some reactions, right? But every time I reacted, it gave me an opportunity to just look deeper within myself. Is where's that wound? Why, when we react, it's not the surface issue. There's a wound there, right? And so I was able to look deeper into my wounds with this medicine. And so I felt the calling to serve the medicine, about 3 years in, and I just wasn't ready, because if you're gonna work with this medicine, you need to be able to come from a place of authenticity, and I was still in a place where I, had my struggles and, a lot of my reactions and things like that, right? And so there was just some more healing that I needed to be able to assist others, because at the end of the day, we can only truly help others as deep as we've helped ourselves, right? So I kept working with the medicine, and eventually the call really just became strong, and it was there. I didn't, act on it though. I just still sat with it. I knew I still had to do some more work. I started doing some work with ayahuasca, and when I started working with ayahuasca, that call to the jungle, the plant spirits, Kambo, just became even stronger. So eventually, um, I answered the call. For me, though, there's a Western way of doing things, where the Westerners have kind of put their own spin on things. And, Canada, United States is full of these Campbell practitioners that work with the medicine in the Western way. It's the same way I received the medicine for the first however many years. But for me, I wanted to, go deep with it, where this medicine came from. I wanted to work with the medicine to honor the tribe that founded it, and to honor the other, spirits of the jungle. And to do that, I had to go there, so I met a guy named Omar. Omar is a master Campbell practitioner that lived in the jungle for 8 years. He lived in a tent. And he worked with the Matse tribe. The Matse tribe is the tribe that, legend has it, founded this medicine 3,000 years ago. So Omar, I met him in Mexico, and I did 10 days of Campbell work with him, just going deeper with the medicine, which is challenging. And we had to do things like push-ups and sit-ups and squats, like right after you receive this medicine. And, for those people that have sat with Kambo, it's not an easy process. It's draining. And to
I
have
think
to
that's
do,
why I'm so scared of it.
yeah, yeah,
I haven't sat with combo yet. I think that at
yeah.
some point it might call me, but for now, I think there's like I think it's fear. What it comes down
Mhm.
to, I think it's fear.
Yeah. And to sit with the medicine, you really have to be able to face that fear, and to be able to um trust it and fully surrender to it. But
Mm.
I worked with Omar in Mexico, and then I came back and it just started opening up. People started reaching out to me, because I share my journey with this medicine. I share my journey with the other plant medicines from the jungle, and again, my journey with addiction, right? So people started reaching out to me, and I started doing a lot of ceremonies. And then I was invited to go to Peru to become an advanced Kambo practitioner and to work with to receive medicine from the Matsei tribe in an initiation ceremony. Um, and it was like the Navy SEALs of Kambo training. It was tough, so that's
Wow.
that's my journey with it. And now I'm here, in North America. Um, in Western Canada, and I'm one of very few Campbell practitioners that work with the medicine in traditional ways, the way the medicine was supposed to be worked with.
Mm. Wow. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of an overview
Hmm.
of your journey. And I applaud you for your courage. Tonight, I wanted to discuss a few things with you. So, if I may share a little bit, we've been Facebook friends for a while, but we finally met in person at one of my kirtan circles, co-creation with Michelle Bull, Silver and Soul YXE on Instagram. She does gong baths and crystal bath, and she does a lot of other offerings, but this is what I do with her. And you came to one of those gatherings, and I remember you sharing, also you shared on social media about it, how it was weird because you were surprised. You arrived to the ceremony with and just being one man, and it's all women. And I've talked a little bit about how chanting is more of a feminine practice, so it's harder for men to step into it. But there's like this sacredness that happens when we step into those uncomfortable ceremonies, like or uncomfortable. I don't want to say uncomfortable ceremonies, but those places that maybe we feel alone or that seem a little scary. And I wanted to talk a little bit about sacredness and ceremony tonight, and also like that balance within, right? We're in the solstice, we're in the dark, but we all know that to see the light, we need to embrace the dark. And there's also that balance between the feminine and masculine. Lots of things kind of come into play all together. And interestingly, today I had a message from a follower, a man who has just started following me on socials, and he pops in here and there. And he was saying how like he's grateful for me coming into his life, that was his word, that it is changing things. So like I'm honored to know that I can help others, not just women, be in touch with that part of their voice. So you've mentioned also in your sacred ceremonies that you host that it's mainly women, but slowly more men are coming. How how do you how do you navigate this, with the female, with the male, with the balance of the energies, with the women coming, with the men coming? Is it different? Is it like, I know it's not as common, so how does that feel in ceremony?
For me, and yeah, I have worked with mostly women. Lately, again, like I told you the other week there, I've been manifesting more men stepping up and do this healing work, and they have. For me, during a ceremony, there's no difference. Um, to be, I kind of check out of myself when I do the ceremony. I'm totally not in it. I'm a vessel for the medicine. So I keep, my energy very neutral during a ceremony. Um, but yeah, it's great, to be able to hold space for women. Um, because it's not something that I was able to do for most of my life, especially in relationships. And so, this last year, it's definitely opened things up for me, given me a lot of practice. Because again, I was that that guy that, if a woman had some sort of an issue or some sort of a problem, I was going to try to fix it, or I was going to be like, well, why can't you just do this? Or, you know what I mean? And I wasn't able to hold space. And so during these ceremonies with Kambo, it's really opened things up for me. And being able to hold that space for women has helped me assist the men in being able to be in touch with their feminine side,
Mhm.
which is important because we need that balance.
You talked about being a vessel for the medicine. I'm curious about, do you take the medicine when you hold? Because I know it's more than just a combo. I think there's also hape. Hape? Am I pronouncing
Yeah, yeah. Hape is a medicine too. In traditional ways of doing Kambo, they don't work with hape.
Okay.
Um, um, that would be a totally separate ceremony. Um, no, and I don't do Kambo, before the ceremonies. I mean, in the jungle, I did. We did Kambo. I'd have to, do my ceremony, do my push-ups, and then serve someone. It was a lot, right? But no, I just take some time for myself, an hour before the ceremony, and just really connect with the medicine. I'll hang on to a Campbell stick and pray, and just connect with the medicine that way. I've gone to, some places with this medicine that um aren't easy to go to. So it's like I have that spirit of the medicine in me,
Mhm.
doing it in the jungle, receiving doses on my heart, while having to stand is no small task, but doing it just connects you deeper to the medicine.
Mm. We've got a couple questions in the chat here for you. This sounds fascinating. Intuitive Alchemist is saying, so it brings very intense introspection, is a question that is being asked.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely does, right? Like, I mean, it cleanses our cells, right? And so, we don't have all those, toxins, distracting us. It really helps provide us, some clarity for sure.
Wonderful. So when you say you're a vessel for the medicine, do you connect with spirit, the spirit of the medicine, or other guides?
No, I connect with the spirit of Kambo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the
yeah, and I
spirit of
do that
Kambo.
while holding the stick, and I pray. I have my own little ritual before I go into ceremony.
So the medicine is extracted from that specific frog, right?
Yeah.
So does it done? Okay, so I know there's a purge for the first little bits, but after the purge, what happens? Is it hallucination? Is it um,
No, there's no hallucination. There's no altered state of consciousness. And there's not always an oral purge either, with Kambo. There's many different ways to purge, right? There's the sweating, there's shaking, um, there's emotional purges. Some people might scream, they might cry. There's passing out, which is, to me, I that's the best purge. It's like hitting the hard reset button on your computer, and then all of a sudden it fires up and it's working on all cylinders. There's that, and then there's a bottom purge that comes. So it's like, a ceremony is done close to a bathroom, just in case.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And all different ways,
Fun
all
time.
different ways to cleanse ourselves, to cleanse.
Today I had an emotional morning, ended up with my kid being sent to my friend. My friend picked up my kid and helped me out with the car. Anyway, it was a little complicated. I think my European car is struggling in -40 weather. So I managed to drive it to the garage and he's going to keep it overnight. And I just felt relieved that it was there for the night and he's going to check it tomorrow. But there was just emotions coming and And I knew I had this kirtan this afternoon that I do pop-up kirtans on YouTube, and I needed to clear because you mentioned it. When you hold space, you need to have that. And I did, instead of like smudging, I just knew I needed to chant. That was like within me. I knew I needed to chant to clear, but to be able to hold the circle of chanting, I needed to clear myself first.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Mm-hmm.
but it makes sense though. If we're going to hold space, you can't arrive all over the space. You know,
No.
that's the energy that you're going to bring, and you have to create that safe container. And that's another thing I shared with you about that. Is like if I was doing combo in my head, I was going to reach out to a woman. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in my head, this is how I felt safe. This is how I would feel supported. I'm doing this with a woman. Like I really felt like this was. And then since I've gotten to know you, you've come to a few circles. Last time you came, there was two men. Yay!
Mm-hmm.
And we talk after the circles. We had some this dessert that I brought, and we were chatting a little bit after. And then I realized it's like I think I would feel safe to do ceremony with you as a woman who has trauma, who has been in an abusive relationship, who has done some work, still some to do, right? It's never ending. My shadow work, my traumas, my triggers, whatever comes up, right? I'm pretty conscientious of it, and I want to work through it as much as I can with the tools that I have or that I can find. But that there's like this safety that has been created in our friendship, right? Since and then so I feel like if I was going to do combo, which I think I might at some point, I'm not sure. Right now it's not calling me, but I could definitely do ceremony with you. Like we've established this trust relationship. Does it happen that you have to create that bond with your clients before, like, to talk multiple times? I know you do a phone call, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I do a phone call because you want to make sure it's the right fit, right? It's the right fit for both people. That's very important. So, connect with people and really find out what their worldview is. For one, that's important to find out what their worldview is, where they're at in this world. You know, what sort of trauma are they carrying? And then, we'll go over, obviously contraindications, right? Um, you need to be rather healthy to be doing Kambo. So I go over all those things really. And sometimes, those calls, they're typically supposed to be 30 minutes, but sometimes they go into an hour and a half, and really it's again creating a relationship with that other human, and establishing, if we can go further, if we're a good fit for each other. And if we're not, there's other Campbell practitioners out there that, I'd be more than happy to refer people to.
well, that's good. That's good that you have this option. Same with me when people come to me and they ask if I do like meditation circles. I was like, yeah, sometimes I lead little meditations, but that's really not what I do. And it's my pleasure to send them to some people that I know can do this and do this on a regular basis. And it's nice to be able to help each other in the healing business, right?
100% collaboration over competition any day.
Yeah.
If there's any sort of a competition with people, it really just takes away from the medicine. There's an energy there, right? And you're taking away from the people that you're, supposed to be helping too, whether you feel it or not. There's a level of that, right? All of the energy that goes into these things, is important. So again, if we can help each other out one way or another, that's beneficial to the people, that's beneficial to the medicine, and that's beneficial to the world, right?
Yeah, of course. So intuitive alchemist says it sounds like a very powerful way of doing shadow work. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a big part of a ceremony, like a Kambo ceremony, at least with me, is about 3 hours long. Okay, and 45 minutes of that, probably at least 45 minutes, is working on intention setting, right? And so that's where, we will explore that shadow side, or I'll assist that person in exploring that shadow side, because many people just aren't aware of it, right? And many people are very surfacey with things, and so really kind of embracing that shadow side is definitely, key to getting the most benefit out of the medicine. And then once you do the medicine, when it opens it up even more, then you have a lot more, self-awareness around the shadow,
So
and so if you're working with the medicine, typically, at least when I work with the medicine with people, we'll do 3 ceremonies in a row, right? That first ceremony is clearing out toxins, and creating some space, to go deeper. And usually, as the 3 days go, the person is just opening up even more and growing and transforming, and it's such a beautiful thing to watch. Like it's amazing.
I bet. So 3 ceremonies of 3 hours each. And
Mhm.
how does a ceremony develop? It's like, I know you set intentions for the first 45 minutes, but like how, if you don't mind sharing, because I know there's a lot of sacredness in honoring the medicine,
Yeah,
honoring. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit how a ceremony goes after the intention settings.
yeah. So basically, I mean, we start out, we smudge, we light the candle, we do the intention setting. Like I said, could take anywhere, all depending on the person, 20 minutes to 45 minutes kind of thing, right? Sometimes even more than that. Then after we do the intention setting, I do a little ceremony with mapacho. Mapacho is sacred tobacco that comes from the Amazon jungle. It helps relieve fear, anxiety, and it also is a very protective spirit. Mapacho is such a strong protective spirit. If you're walking through the jungle at nighttime and you have a mapacho just lit in your hand, no snakes will come into your path, no jaguars will come into your path. My teacher says this is like a machete. Hanging on to this is like a machete, offers you
Wow.
protection. So we do, we'll do a mapacho ceremony, just to offer protection in the ceremony. It's also to protect me from whatever they're purging out, right?
Mm.
Um, so we'll do the mapacho, and then I'll get them to hang on to the Kambo stick, and basically really infuse their intentions into this stick. So they'll hold on to this stick for, we'll say 2 to 3 minutes, and really infuse their intention into the medicine. Okay. After that, I come and hold on to the stick with them, and we say a prayer. you know in the prayer, there's gratitude for life, gratitude for family, gratitude for the things we have in this life, but most importantly, is gratitude for the medicine and gratitude for the tribes. you know so we'll do that. Then they'll hang on to it for a little bit longer, and you know they'll usually get a number of the amount of dots they want. I'm sure you've probably seen Kambo, and it's little dots. Those would be called gateways, and that's the gateway, the entry points to where you put the medicine. So
Yeah.
I'll have them, they'll meditate on the amount of dots that they want. Um, and I'll also tune in as well, and I'll usually get a number. And a lot of times, we both come up with the same number. Sometimes we come up with two totally different numbers, and then we talk about it. So that's a big part of it. From then I start cleaning all my tools, my knife, this little bowl. So this little bowl that I have is to collect their saliva. Okay. So when you work with the medicine in traditional ways, they mix it with the participant's saliva. Okay. That's got your DNA. So it helps the medicine communicate, to where it needs to go into the body. So I'll get them to spit in this bowl, and then I'll mix on the stick with their saliva, mix the medicine. I'll burn them with hold on, I have some right here. It's called tamache vine. Um, sorry, I just had it soaking. I'm trying to make it smaller. But this is called tamache vine. So if you've ever seen pictures of the giant monkey tree frog, sometimes it's hanging on a vine. This would be the vine that it's hanging on. Okay. So what I do is this is what I use to make the burns. And we only burn the top layer of skin. Okay. It exposes the lymphatic system, and that's where the medicine goes. And that's how it crosses the blood-brain barrier and works in us on a cellular level. So I'll burn them, based on whatever we discussed, 2, 3, 4 points kind of thing. Then I'll mix the medicine, I'll scrape it with my knife, I'll make, little balls, I guess, and I'll put that on them. I set a timer for 20 minutes, and then I observe them closely. Um, you know, Sometimes they pass out, right? So it's important that they're sitting right up against the wall because you don't want them to pass out and hit their head, right? Safety is the most important factor. But usually, like the pass out point is kind of like within the first 5 minutes. So I'll just watch them really close, and just make sure they're safe. Once once I know that they're safe, sometimes I'm called to use more mapacho. Mapacho is also a good tool to help with the purge. Sometimes the rattles come out, rattling sound will also help with the purge.
Mm.
And sometimes the drum even comes out, and I'll have the drum basically right by them and, slamming it. And sometimes that helps with the purge. Sometimes I'll sing an Ikaro, which is chanting, actually. We'll call it chanting an Ikaro. And which will also can help with the purge. So it all just depends on what I'm called to do. And so they sit with the medicine for, 20 minutes. Sometimes I leave it on for longer, all depends, 20 to 25 minutes kind of thing. And then, while they're in that process, chances are they're going to have an oral purge, which is the most common. Or like I said to you earlier, there's other ways of purging. So after that 20 to 25 minutes is up, um, it's exhausting. So they have a rest. So they'll take some time, have a little nap and 10, 20 minutes kind of thing. And then after that, we'll share some food and do some integration, some talking, some more sharing and, finding out how they're going to move forward now after using Kambo as a catalyst.
Mm. So it is a catalyst. I
Mhm.
love what the Crystal Healing Mama said here. It's called the unconscious for a reason. That was a little bit earlier in the conversation. Until you start peeling back the layers, you don't even see it. And
Mhm.
I think this is what the big fear is. I think that it's that fear of going through that barrier, like of our unconscious and really realizing what the fuck we need to work on.
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
really what, and I think this is where the fear comes from because it's an unknown, or it's like, okay, I'm opening this giant book or this giant can of worms that I didn't know that was hidden under my bed. And now, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, I feel like from my perspective, from what I'm hearing, it's for those who are ready to open that.
Yeah, you definitely need to be ready, to sit with this medicine because if you're not, and you're going to sit with it in a state of fear, you're not going to be able to fully trust the medicine and surrender to it. And that's
So
key.
it is about surrendering. And I think that's beautiful because that's love. When we start to surrender, we trust. We know it's for a higher good. We know we've been called. So we followed our intuition. We know we've
Mhm.
been called through the medicine. And that often what I hear from people that I know that I've come across this medicine or that I've worked with this medicine with you or with other practitioners is that you need to be called to it.
Mhm.
You need to feel that calling. And I think it comes, well, it comes or it doesn't, right? It's not for everyone for sure, but it comes with like a deeper practice, a
Mhm.
deeper understanding of the shadow work, no matter what the shadow work is for you, for every one of us. We all have to sit with that. Um, so, do you think it's a similar outcome than ayahuasca or other jungle medicines?
Um, yes. It definitely is. Ayahuasca obviously gives you an altered state of consciousness. She's a medicine that, you face your fears, right in that ceremony. But the end result of, Kambo or ayahuasca, getting us into a place where, we have to do the work and integrate, um, ayahuasca might give you certain messages during the ceremony. Campbell does somewhat, but it's almost through you. Because it really, really connects you to yourself, and it helps you bring out the medicine that's already within you,
Mm.
and bring things out, things that you, like I said, the unconscious, may or may not know, but it's going to bring it to the conscious level, right?
I love it.
And ayahuasca's similar to that, but again, it gives you like an altered state of consciousness, and but there's a purge involved with ayahuasca as well.
Mhm.
It's
I
really,
went to
really
Peru. I went to Peru a long time ago. I have the ayahuasca cloth. Like you, I noticed you have one as well. It's right here. I use,
Shipibo. That's a
ah,
Shipibo, the Shipibo print.
okay.
Yeah, the
Tell me more
Shipibo.
about my print.
Well, Shipibos, they're a tribe in Iowa, in Peru.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if you're gonna do ayahuasca ceremony in Peru, it's typically gonna be a Shipibo ceremony.
Yeah, I have not sit with ayahuasca either. I supported someone that was selling those when I went there, and I met a lot of people, shamans. I was just not being called to the medicine when I was there. I don't know what it would be now. Um, all I know is that I use it as a sacred cloth, so not for ayahuasca, but I definitely use it for cleanses and burning and things like that. So maybe I'm using it wrong, but that's what
Mm,
intuitively I want to use it for.
no,
I know
you
it's
use it.
sacred.
There's no wrong or right with an altar cloth, right?
Yeah,
It's whatever your ritual is with it.
yeah,
That's
that's
what
true.
it's meant for.
So we got awesome people here on the chat. I just wanted to mention something else. People are really excited about the combo here. So like, it sounds amazing. Is this a wood like Palo Santo? Okay, that question was about that wood that is like a machete that is protection. Is it like a piece of wood?
Oh, mapacho. I
I
don't
was
have
also
any nearby.
very curious about that.
It's tobacco.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's like rolled in rolling papers.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what you
yeah.
walk and then you're protected from being
Other
hurt.
spirits. Yeah. Yeah,
That's super.
I tried it. Like I went and walked through the jungle at night. We had some paths to walk, and you basically, before you are about to enter the path in the jungle, you start off with the mapacho. You blow it all around the entrance, and you ask for permission to enter. And then you keep that mapacho lit while you're in there.
That sounds amazing.
Mhm.
So, do we have any more questions? Okay, everyone's saying the ceremony today because it's the solstice. Yeah, today for the solstice. I didn't do much yesterday. I was with my son, so we did the gifts. He's gone for the holiday, so I'm going to be home for a bit. But I decided to start a few traditions that I want to share. So I don't know if you can hear my dehydrator; it's still going. I forgot
No,
to
I can
unplug
hear.
it before the interview, but I'm dehydrating oranges and lemons. It's been smelling so good in my place, and I've been making a nice little backdrop from my window because the sun goes through and it's beautiful. So I got this a beautiful tradition from my friend Gypsy Mama. Are there any traditions that you do with? I know you're a dad too, so are there any traditions that you do with your kid? We burned some things that we were releasing yesterday. We did that outside with a candle. That was pretty fun. He didn't want to do the orange thing, but he definitely did the burning thing and the writing thing. So is there any tradition that you have with your daughter?
Not for solstice or anything like that. My daughter has, taken a bit of a spiritual path. She'll like smudge her room here and there sometimes, and she's really into her crystals. And
Nice.
when she gets money from the tooth fairy, she wants to
How
go and
old
buy.
is she?
She's 11. She's 11.
Oh,
Um,
so
my
cute. My son is also into crystal, and he received an essential oil roller that my friend Gypsy Mama made, especially for him for grounding. And he's got his little crystals. And then sometimes I even like uh I I catch him like he's going to meditate like this. He's going to chant. He likes to chant, of course. I love that we are exposing our kids to those. I mean, they're learning somewhere. It's probably not from TV, so they're not necessarily learning to smudge their room on a on a TV show. So they have to learn
Yeah.
from us, right?
I have a funny story. Like my daughter, she knows all about ayahuasca and mushrooms and Kambo and stuff, right? As I would go away, to BC to do the ayahuasca ceremonies for the most part, and I'm a single dad. I have her full time, and I don't have a lot of support here in Saskatoon. So what I would do is I would take her out of school and just send her to Regina to be with my parents. And she missed a lot of school for me to go away and do ceremonies.
I think that's okay. I think School of Life is also really
A
great.
hundred, 100% it is. 100% it is. And I've seen a lot of growth out of her just from me doing my work. you know there was a time, a couple years ago, where she wasn't doing so well in school. Her teacher reached out to me and had some concerns. She was really really withdrawn in class, and she's normally a pretty outgoing kid, right? And so the teacher reached out to me, and by this time I already had planned to put her into yoga. And my friend his name is Kevin Nadu. He's a yoga teacher, and I started taking her out of school every Friday afternoon to do yoga. Okay, and it was within 3 weeks her teacher messaged me and said, "I want to know what you did, because Vienna has done a big turnaround in class." And I'm like, "Yeah, I take her out of school every Friday afternoon. We go to yoga." you know that was the only answer I had. I don't know what else it was, right? That was the only thing that we did that changed.
Well, chanting is also yoga, right? There's lots of different yogas, but it definitely opens up pathways within us and our energy. So when
Hmm.
she had some blockages, kids also need energy work. I often ask one of the practitioner, I don't know if you know her, Amanda Mary, to do some long distance Reiki on my son. Sometimes he's all over the place. Now I feel like I can do some clearing with him with my tuning forks, and I do Reiki on him too. Um, just before he goes to sleep, he loves it. He loves it. I love that we're able to bring these practices to our kids. I think it's very important. And you mentioned something when you started doing your work. She definitely, I might be paraphrasing, but upgraded. She definitely, you know, like changed as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, well, it's about you know changing the cycle, of the family lines, right? And it takes one person to do that work, right? And so just for me doing the work that I had to do and to continue to do the work, she's benefiting. And it's just there's an influence, right? I don't really have to do anything, because the more work I do, the better parent I become, the better person I become, right? And the children benefit. If we really want to change the world, we do that through parenting. We do our healing work, and we become you know different parents than, say, maybe we had,
Mm.
right? And that's changing the DNA. you
Yes,
know it's
a hundred
changing the
percent,
DNA.
a hundred
And
percent.
so that's important, right? Like, the kids are going to have their places of suffering. They're going to have some trauma, they're going to have things that they have to work through, right? But the way I look at it is, she's not going to suffer into her late 30s like I did. she'll be able to do the work a lot sooner. And she's already doing it, So I'm very, very thankful. That's, a big reason, for why I stay so focused in doing this work.
Hmm. I love what you said. Well, I always think that it is our responsibility. I mean, we have our own trauma, we have our own trauma from our life, but also from generations before us and from souls, past lives also. So we're carrying shit we don't even know we're carrying. And we have blockages we can't go through. And sometimes we need help for that. And when we
Mm-hmm.
actually reach out for the help, either Kambo, I have a friend, the Crystal Healing Mamas on the chat right now. She does past life healing. She does heart healing and things like that. And sometimes we do need those, whatever it is, chanting. There's lots and lots of things. We also have frequency healing. Like there's lots and lots of different healing things, but we need to take that responsibility. It's not our fault, but it's our responsibility to do that. And then when we do take the steps to heal, to do the shadow work, I was so lucky that it happened so close. So when my son was younger, like my anxiety, my trauma, my PTSD, all the stuff that I had to go through to be where I am now, leading people, facilitating circles, and holding space and making those sacred containers with other women or on my own with my business. I had to pass through certain freaking like horrible periods of my life. Let's just say them as they were. And like not comparing stories or states of and anything, because we all have our own. You have a dog barking in the back.
Yeah, I do. Peaches, come here.
So not comparing our stories or anything, but we all have to go through this work so we can move. And then, that's one thing that I think is amazing is that our kids are learning our bad patterns, but also our good ones. So when we start shifting the way we receive, the way we have faith, the way we surrender, the way we take responsibility, the way we take accountability, the way we take consistency into our practices, it can only benefit our kids and their kids and whatever cycle that we're starting to shift. But you mentioned cute little dog. You mentioned the DNA. And this is so freaking true. Like we have all of us have dormant DNA. So we need to awaken. I don't know if Kambo is a medicine you can awaken DNA, but chanting is. I know for a fact that we not only remove all the junks, the toxin, the impurities, but we also wake up that dormant DNA. That's pretty fascinating when we think about it, that by doing our practices, we can, like change our DNA. Like,
Yeah, Kambo is definitely a medicine that does that, right? Because it goes right into our cells, and starts pulling out that trauma, pulling out the trapped emotions, pulling out the bad bacteria, and then it replaces it with good bacteria. You mentioned, in there about just taking responsibility, that has been, key to my healing, and not being a victim anymore, realizing that, things happened when I was a little kid, right? That weren't, my fault. And, I was a victim for years of my dad's, is where I played that role. And, things shifted when I did 3 Kambo ceremonies, and I came back and just had a different understanding of him and his life and the trauma that he experienced, and then his dad, and in his life and the trauma he probably experienced, right? So I had a different understanding of it, and I no longer became a victim of it. I became a person's going to heal it, right? And so having a different understanding of my dad and being able to connect with my dad and acknowledge all of the good things he did. There was if someone asked me, say 5 years ago, you know, make a list of all the good things your dad did. Like I wouldn't be able to do it, you know, I wouldn't be able to do it. I could go endless days on a list of like all of the perceived bad things that I thought he did. Um, but you know, Cambo changed that for me, you know, where I was able to put together a list, you know, of all the good things he did, which was a pretty big list. And then I read it to him. Peaches. I read it to him. And you know, we hugged probably for the first time since I was a kid. You know, he was crying, I was crying, you know, but once we can, you know, step out of that, you know, victim place, it definitely opens things up, you know, for more healing and for growth, right? You know, and then later on in life where I did a lot of shit, you know, whether it was unconsciously or consciously, you know, in relationships or, you know, with friendships or whatever, you know, that I was always blaming others for. You know what? There's always two sides. We always play a role, whether we're ready to see it or not. There's some sort of a role that we played. And that's where that taking responsibility part, you know, once we're able to take responsibility and see it for what it is and see it for what our shadow, you know, what part our shadow played in it, you know, that really opens the doors for, you know, spiritual growth. We'll call it spiritual maturity, you know, and transformation.
What you're saying resonates a lot with what I've been through. Like, once again, not comparing stories or anything, but just understanding the concept of victimhood and owning your shit. It's not my fault if this happened, but I can't blame always others
Right.
for me maybe not setting my standards high enough,
Mhm.
right? Me being loose with my boundaries, me not saying no, not saying yes when I mean no, right? Like,
Mhm.
there's lots of like ways that we can take responsibility instead of blaming. And I recognize myself a lot in that, the blame game, the victim game. Oh, I recognize myself a lot in the past. I was a lot like that. Now I really try to see this in a different perspective, but also owning my shit, but
Mhm.
also not taking on other people's shit either, you know, like having
Mhm.
those energetic boundaries, having those standards high enough that I don't like, why did they do this to me? Why did I allow it to happen? Right? When
Right.
we switch that, the way we say things, and then we take responsibility for what is going on, then everything changes. Perspective changes, but also our thoughts pattern, our words that we say
Right.
about ourselves or others. And these are little contracts with the universe, right? So we have to be very careful with our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
Right, right. And like, I mean, you mentioned, you know, why am I not able to set boundaries or why do I allow this? You know, and you know, I think about that all the time, right? And, you know, then I'll go into deeper places, right? Is what happened in my childhood, you
Mm.
know, what happened where, you know, I wasn't able to feel worthy enough or, you know, didn't have the self-love that, you know, I put myself in these positions kind of thing, right? You
People
know, and
pleaser, the
people
people pleaser
pleaser.
syndrome.
Oh man, I've been a people pleaser all my life, right? And that's again, there's that self-love issue, right? And you know, things happened when I was young, when I was 6 years old, when I was 8 years old. You know, I've narrowed it down to the specific times in my life, you know, as to where I lost that love for myself, right? And you know, since I was able to really narrow it down to those specific situations where, you know, I remember where I was, I remember what I was wearing, I remember what the weather was like, you know, and in Kambo ceremonies, it became my intention is to heal that child, you know, and I was able to, you know, purge out that energy, right? Is when we're kids, we can't process our emotions, right? So when things happen, especially with adults, whether it's just something from them yelling at us, or the old saying, don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about, or go play in traffic, or whatever adults used to say, back in the 80s, right? That stuff is trauma, you know and the parents, I know back then, they just didn't have the skills and they didn't realize, right? But saying certain things to kids definitely has a lifelong impact. And so, yeah, I had multiple different things like that where I wasn't able to fully love myself. But in retrospect, they were also gifts. They were gifts for me to be able to heal and change the DNA of the family, and be a better dad. And yeah.
Oof. What you say resonate a lot with me, a lot. I remember some specific events from my childhood that really traumatized me, that I remember exactly the words that were said to me or the things that were done. And I think until I was in therapy with my therapist was really good. She was doing tapping, she was doing um, hypnosis. There was lots of things that we were doing that were really bringing some stuff from my past. And I was like, yeah, well, there's this thing. And she was like, yeah, this could be very traumatic, actually. And I was like, right? Like, I just didn't even think that, my dog that was taken away from me when I was a kid, that was given to me and taken away from me a couple months later, would have
Yeah.
been traumatic to me. Do I want to save all the dogs in the world now? Yes. I can only have two. And I have, oh, thank goodness I only have two. I have a kid and a full life. But like, these are things that have not helped. For example, my abandonment issues or my feeling of rejection and that victimizing into that, right? And then
Right.
we have a couple of recovering people pleaser in the chat tonight that recognize themselves. Yeah, how do we block that? How do we change that? At some point, we have to learn to say no and then displease people.
Well, this is, I mean, for me, I've done it through the medicine, right? And so, again, like I said earlier, it become my intention to heal that child. So, and I do this with a lot of my clients, is during that intention setting part, we like to guide them to get to that specific place, that specific situation where something just changed for them in life, right? And the intention then becomes to give their inner child what they didn't get back then, what they deserved, which is ultimately love,
Yeah.
right? Love the way love is supposed to be shown, not from a wounded perspective, not from the trauma, or the way love is shown by buying things or whatever, but just being present, for the kids, and having compassion, being able to hold space for them. And so, before I put the medicine on them, they really get themselves into that place, where they just can picture it. And then they picture themselves, giving themselves what they need, which is love, right? And so then once the medicine's on them, then they can purge that energy out from that situation. And then it's a game changer. A lot of the times people will say, again, Kambo is not a psychedelic, but sometimes during the ceremony, or sorry, after the ceremony, they'd be like, I saw myself just hugging myself, hugging my kid.
Mm.
I was standing there, and so it's like that really opens things up once we can really truly release that energy with the purge, you know?
That inner child love, right? I think that a lot of us have had trouble reaching that unconditional love for ourselves, no matter what, to love all parts and all. And that's sacral chakra stuff, right? It's loving all parts of ourselves,
Hmm.
forgiving ourselves, having that deep compassion for self. And I love, there's a few chants that come to mind with this. I feel that the practice of chanting embodies the wisdom, compassion, and love, basically. um, And I think that combo is similar to that in a way, because I mean it's a different process, right? Where like once again, I'm not trying to compare, but it does have similar results at the end, depending, like maybe we need to chant a little bit more to
Mhm.
arrive at similar. The combo is like super dose. It's like a super dose of of healing, of purging.
Yeah,
Mention
yeah.
the
I worked with this girl, I don't know, a few months back. She was a young girl. And after we did, you just kind of triggered me when you said superdose. Um, After we did, she did 3 sessions, 3 ceremonies. And the first thing she said to me after that third session was, I feel like I just got 15 years of therapy in 3 days.
wow.
So
Speed up, high speed.
yeah, it was like, it's uncomfortable though. It doesn't come, without tasting your pain, and feeling the pain, right?
Yeah.
There's
Well, I
no
don't think
way.
any of that work is comfortable anyway. We just have to do it.
No, no, yeah, there's no way. You have to go through it. You can't go over it, around it, under it.
It's
You
always
got to
going to come
go through
back
it.
in your face. It's always going to come back. It's just, you can't avoid it. It's like trying to avoid a pattern in a relationship that keeps on coming. And just like,
Yeah,
no, it's going to keep on coming until you're
right.
ready to do it.
Yeah, until you recognize like the loops, right? We live in loops,
I
right?
think that it's beautiful to be able to see patterns or things that are coming in our life from different perspective, from different times, from different people, from different occasions, things that keep showing up in our life as mirror, or as like, are you going to deal with it in a different way this time? It's like major tests that keep coming. I love those. They're like very uncomfortable, but at some point we got to
Oh
try
yeah.
something else to have a different outcome. We got to try a different way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You just, when you said that mirror thing, like, and that just makes me think about this, my life, and all of the people that I despised, for whatever reason, I didn't like them because they were a mirror of me. That's huge, and now, if there's something that triggers me a little bit about someone else, that is an opportunity for me to look at myself,
I
even.
love the triggers. I'm learning to love my triggers, not to
Oh yeah.
avoid them, not to hide them, not to scream them on social media either. That's not necessarily the only way out, but to love my triggers in a like to receive them in a different way, to realize this is very uncomfortable, but obviously it's there to teach me something, that there's something missing in my life, lacking, that I need to pursue, that I need to move through, that I need to possibly process.
Hmm.
um, but what's coming up also is the other way around, is that when people get triggered by me, I'm learning to have those beautiful, or that wait, that I trigger them, or like they get triggered from something I say or I do. And then I'm learning to really have that energetic boundary and know that it doesn't necessarily belong to me.
Right.
And then I acknowledge it. Okay, thanks for sharing. But I honor where you're at, but this is not my shit to hold, and have like that kind of boundary. It's very empowering. And it's also not draining energy wise. It's like protecting my energy, and not getting distracted. That's been like a new learning of mine that I'm slowly, getting into and really enjoying receiving it, but not owning it, like owning my own stuff, but not taking other people's stuff. And
Right.
that's really, really freaking hard.
Right. Well, again, other people's triggers aren't our responsibility. That's on them,
Mm.
My first Kambo teacher, Rama, also used to say to me, and this really hits home for me, is if they react, it's their shit. If you react, it's your shit. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so like I think, man, every time I've reacted in my life, like there's a wound there from somewhere else in my life, which so anytime like I'm in a place of reaction, and it's been about a year since I've really reacted, and um it comes with some some things to deal with, right? And so, but now if I feel like triggered, or I feel like I may react, that's a red light for me to say, you need to stop, you need to pause, and you need to, take some time to reflect and find
Yeah.
out where this is coming from, because it has nothing to do with the surface issue ever.
I love recently how I've been receiving those triggers, as I said, in a different way, but also having that introspection, like really fast, like being able to sit with the discomfort, but also knowing that where it's from, or knowing that you have to figure out where it's from. And I bet Kambo helps a lot with that.
Right, right. Well, Campbell definitely helps, bring some clarity to life, and it helps you, it's like it's a catalyst for us to do the work,
Yeah.
right? So again, there's that spiritual bypass aspect with any medicine, so if a person is in that place of spiritual bypassing, then they just might not be able to do the work, you
Mhm.
know but if we're not in a place of spiritual bypassing, and we're able to really connect to ourselves and find that wound, then once we find that wound, then there's an opportunity to do that healing work, right?
Yeah,
you know
totally. Wow, what a great talk. Thank you so much. I want to remind everyone that Chris works out of Saskatoon, Regina, Calgary, anywhere else?
Um, I will be going to Edmonton and Winnipeg, but most of my ceremonies are in Regina and Saskatoon. I've been out to the Calgary area once in the last year. But I'm gonna be traveling. I'll probably try to do one major city a month kind of thing. Uh,
Wonderful.
so in
So,
Saskatoon, I have a great spot. With Campbell, it's good to have, it's jungle medicine, right? So, the best place that's going to facilitate the best energy field, right? Um, so I have this place that's 15 minutes out of the city, a magical spot. It's called
I've
Wildwood
seen
Retreat
I've
Center.
seen the pictures. I think I've
Yeah,
been there too a long time ago. I think I've been there for a retreat.
yeah. We're gonna have a big retreat there in May or June kind of thing. So,
Oh,
um,
sweet.
yeah, but I'll work out of there. I'll do private sessions out of there, and then I'll do, once a month or maybe twice a month, I'll book the weekend where I'll be able to do, the people that can't make the other times, right? I like to open up as many times as possible. Um, in Regina, I got a place that's kind of on the edge of the city. I hope to find a place, that's outside of the city soon. And then in Calgary, I would just rent like an Airbnb somewhere on the edge of the city as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. So we can find you at Healing Spirits Combo on Instagram and Facebook, I think, as well, right?
Yeah. And then healingspiritskambo.com. And then my phone number, check this out. 690 frog.
There you go. Awesome.
306-690 frog is my phone number.
I
Uh,
remember saying that.
so, I welcome texts or any way someone needs to get a hold of me if they have any questions. I offer, a free, we'll call it a discovery call, to establish if Cambo is the right medicine for them, and to establish if I'm the right practitioner for them as well. There are other practitioners in Saskatoon. There's one other practitioner in Saskatoon, and then there's another girl that comes from Alberta to Saskatoon on a
Mhm.
regular basis. So, you know,
Clarissa, Megan.
yeah, Megan and Carissa. Yeah. Yeah, those are the two that people may be a better fit with them.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chris. That was so educational, informative. Um, Maybe we can have another chat in the future, talk about something else. We talked a lot about combo today, but that's what needed to be talked about. And I'm very curious still. So I'm glad that you gave us a little bit of a run through of what to expect and what it is. A lot of people don't even know what it is. So I'm very honored. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I always enjoy, you being in your presence, at the Kirtan circles, and it's I want to let you know that it's definitely really opened me up even more, right?
Mhm.
I started really getting in touch with my feminine side, 3, 4 years ago when I started yoga. But there was a time where, I just wouldn't embrace anything like that. I wouldn't even do yoga. Like when my ex asked me to do yoga, I'm like, no way, that's not for me, and I was so closed off, right? So, again, you mentioned that first time I came out and saw you, and I was the only guy, and there was like 30 women, and
Yeah.
that was I experienced a lot of growth there. I experienced a lot of growth there, and so thank you for creating that space for me to come and continuing, and I will continue to come because I get some healing out of it. I get some growth out of it, and it's great to be around other people that are so vibrant, like yourself and everybody else in the room there, and everybody's singing, and I'm singing, and I can hear my voice now. Normally I only sing in the car by myself or when my kids in it.
It takes a little bit of stepping in that discomfort to come, especially in an in-person circle, because when you chant online with me, everyone's muted, so we can still feel the energy of a circle, but you chant mainly with me. That's it, right? So
Mhm.
it is different. But when we're in circle, I'm one of the people. Yes, I chant pretty loud. I have a strong voice, but I'm one of them in the circle. So we all become one together, chanting to each other. And then when we put our intention into it, benefits are exponential at this point. And the more we have a personal practice ourselves, the more these circles are healing.
Mhm,
And it's
mhm,
amazing also to have newbies come in, because there might be more in a state of receiving
mhm,
than
mhm.
giving. So
Yeah,
it all comes together. Anyway, I get
I
really
want you to know, I want you to know that I feel great after I do it. I always feel like I experience, a little bit more growth each time. And like we've shared about men doing the healing work, when we've talked, and that's important. So, I want, if there's ever any men that want to come out and join the circle, and that or maybe unsure of it, and they want another male to come out, I'm always more than willing to see if I can make that space to be able to come out and hold that space for them so then they can grow.
wonderful. Thank you. That's
Hmm.
very nice of you. I have some men that are not ready, that are telling me, I'm just going to join online for now. And I'm like, okay, no problem. I want everyone to feel comfortable. But it's hard. It's hard to come and use our voice, but it's also hard to hear our voice. A lot of people don't want to hear their voice. But when we realize that, when we go through that discomfort and start using our voice, not only we have physical shit happening, but our energy centers that get opened up, we clear ourselves, and we open our heart, and we unblock. Well, obviously we open our throat chakra, and that's when we start stepping into our power. It's like we're digging our power center, and then we just like start to open. And I'm sure combo is a similar thing. When we start tapping into the medicine, there's that heart opening, that self-love, that self-compassion, right?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Oh,
mhm. We
we
just
we
need to
love
be
what we
be
do.
Be comfortable, if you really want to grow, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know,
Yeah. Yes.
that's how we grow, and that's how we transform. So
That's how it gets less uncomfortable.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm totally comfortable now, coming to your circles. We're the first one. I'm like, I sat in my truck for about 10 minutes, and watched all these women get out of their vehicles, and I'm kind of looking for a guy, and then come, and I thought, oh shit, okay, here I go. And I went in the yard expecting to see a guy there, maybe set up a spot right by him. Didn't happen, but it was perfect. It's what I needed. It was perfect.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think that it's understandable why people hesitate to go to these events or to invest in themselves, because combo also costs money to do a ceremony, for your time, for the medicine. And I think that when we start understanding the energy behind the money, when we start putting that energy towards our healing, there's like this commitment. It's like, well, I'm paying for it, so I'm freaking gonna do it, that
yeah.
commit to self. And I think it's so important to get there. I was the first one who was refusing to get a coach, but there's lots of free training online. I was refusing to pay for a healing. Well, I can do it myself. No, we have to stop that fear around the money and start investing into our healing and using the medicines that we are called to and the tools that we want to bring into our lives.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Um, the money I've spent, on ceremonies, is a lot.
It's investment.
All of the
It's
times I've
investment to
done
yourself.
ayahuasca or Kambo or whatever, but it is the best investment I've ever made, because I notice it paying off, with my daughter,
Yeah.
and I notice it paying off with my family around me,
Mhm.
and then people starting to, notice change in me and wanting to change themselves, start doing their work. And that is a gift. That is such a gift. And that's how I know that my investment in myself is paying off.
When we start doing our own work, we inspire others to do it. And then we attract people to our healing modalities because we embrace that healing. We are showing up and showing off. You're not hiding your growth. You're not hiding your journey. That's what I mean by showing off. I like to say showing up for ourselves and for the people around us, because it ripples, that
Mhm.
healing ripples around, but showing off as well, meaning like this is like I'm taking responsibility and I'm putting myself out there in authenticity, in vulnerability, to show this is where I was and this is what I'm doing and this is where I'm going and this is who I am now. And I think that shows a lot of courage and strength on its own. And
It does.
because we're showing up in vulnerability. And like I have my membership, with the women. It's a women thing, but uh every theme is quite big for me too. And I'm doing the freaking work as they are, as we all are during that month. There's this accountability that we owe to ourselves and to others too, not just as leader or practitioners or space holders or container holders, but also as parents, as member of society, as human on earth, right? There's like this deeper responsibility that comes to us. And at some point you can't avoid it. You just have to step into it and freaking do it.
Hmm.
And I think that's the most courageous and frightening thing to do. But like we have to. It's like there's no other way around.
Right. It's a gift for everybody.
Finding that harmony within. Like I'm not always
Yep.
harmonious, but I have found it. I have found it enough that there's some times where I'm like, holy smokes, how does it get better than this? I'm just like on a cloud, overjoying, my heart opening. And sometimes I'm not feeling like this. And it's okay too. But we
Mhm.
to feel and that contentment or that sense of harmony, we have to find that pure balance between our masculine, between the feminine, between the dark and the light too. Like somewhere you can't always be in the light. It's impossible, but you can't always stay in the dark either. So finding like that middle ground, that balance.
Mm-hmm. I like the dark shit, you know.
Uh, I
I
think
like,
you
like, I mean, that's if you don't, can embrace that, then it's tough to, get to the other side of it, right? Life is not all light and love, you know.
it's not all pink
Um,
and fluffy with unicorns and rainbows. No,
no,
some
no, it's
dark
not.
shit. Well,
Mhm.
on this darkest day of the year, the
Mhm,
light
mhm.
is coming tomorrow. It's going to get a little lighter. I am very happy to say that I do not experience seasonal depression now. I just experience normal shit days like everyone else, and a lot of good days too. That's a win for me because that was carrying me for many, many years. I think that's a lot of it I can attribute to my work, my healing. And you mention it often for our kids. We have to do it. Like I'm so freaking proud of myself sometimes for the woman that I'm becoming, the mother that I'm becoming. Because I want my son to see that too and to experience, and then the way I react in social situation than before. There's a big change as well how I stand up for myself now. I remember my
Mhm.
anxiety was so strong before I would not even stand up for myself. What does that show my son? Like I needed to get into that warrior goddess space where I'm like, I'm not going to let this person, you know, whatever it is, like be, um, looking for all my words right now. I'm not going to let this person look down on me um, or treat me negatively. It happens sometimes when we go to the city. I don't live in the city anymore. When I go to the city, I can feel all the energy of the city, and people are like hating their job. And then you get the shit service, and then people are just crazy. And I'm like, what is going on? It's like, how do we handle those situations, right? For me, it's a big deal because my anxiety sometimes took over so much that I would just leave places, or I would just ignore or give up, or leave and take my son away from a situation because of me, because I couldn't handle what was going on. So there's like this satisfaction of knowing that when we do our work, like your kid sees you talk with people, have meetings, travel for holding space for people, like your role is very important in society, and your kid gets to see what you're doing, for others. I think this is the beautiful gift that we can give them. Like I'm really proud of my son. Sometimes he's right behind the iPad right now. Not right now, he's with his dad, but like he would be behind the iPad when I'm having an interview or when I'm chanting or where I'm doing something, and he can here that I'm holding, and he comes and see how many people there is. So he comes like on the side here, so I don't see him. And he's going to try to see how many people join or how many people,
Mhm.
and he's like, who is she chanting with today? Or what is happening? And I'm just proud that I can work with him. Of course, I don't work all the time with him, but I'm glad that he can see that. I think that's freaking amazing.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. For me, there was one thing that happened with my daughter where I'm just like, it's like an aha moment for me. A couple years ago, she started drawing. And the first picture she drew, she came out into the living room and said, "Look what I drew." And it was a frog wearing a mushroom hat. And I'm
Nice.
like, I'm like, uh-huh, yeah, uh-huh.
Well, my son likes to draw chickens and cows and roosters. I get the whole farm land on my fridge. Okay, I think that it's getting a little late and it's a long interview, and it's like we
Yeah,
could go on. We could go on. I'm not trying to cut here, but I think we should cut here. I'm not trying to cut here,
yeah, I
but I
gotta
think
go.
we should.
It's bedtime.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
bedtime.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
thank you
Chris.
so much.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
really
thank you.
appreciate this your time, and I think lots of people are really, really appreciative in the chat. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for being so participating and being also so yeah, very interested in the medicine of Kambo. So I wonder if you're going to have more people contacting you soon. I hope so. Thank you
Yeah, maybe
again, Chris.
I'm doing a group ceremony in Regina soon. So anybody from Regina, it'll be like an introduction. I'm doing it with Michelle.
Oh,
So it's gonna be
nice.
a combination of sound bath. Yeah, Michelle and Amy. We did one in
Yeah.
Saskatoon, and like we had a great turnout, and lots of transformation that night. So yeah, if anybody from Regina, the Regina area, or if you want to travel there,
January
just
13th, right?
reach out to me. Yeah, January 13th.
Yes, in Regina. And sometimes we're in Regina at the same time, but not on that week, but not on that weekend because I'll be there with my friend Gypsy Mama Tanya doing a kirtan and dance, but on the 22nd, so the weekend after. But sometimes we're in Regina at the same time. I remember
A
that.
lot of the times we're in Regina at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I love going to Regina now. I love the crowd in Regina, all the chanters and the dancers. And this
Nice.
event in Regina we're doing is open to men and women. And I'm kind of on a roll where I want to offer more spaces for men to come and get in touch with their feminine energy, their divine feminine energy. I think it's really important. And even the women, like we've been too much in our masculine too. So it's important that we all start to balance it out and reach deeper into that divine feminine energy.
If I'm in Regina, I'll join.
Sounds good if you're not doing 3 ceremonies.
Yeah, no, I'm planning Saskatoon either that weekend or the weekend after. So but whatever weekend is not, I'm not doing it here. I'll probably end up in Regina anyway, seeing my son and stuff. So yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone.